Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Selfish Truth. I'm Niels Hansen. I'm going to be talking about next generation video games and consoles. Oh no, fanboys are going to erupt. Please don't be a fanboy. This is all about being objective, logic, and rational as much as possible. I completely understand and acknowledge the fact that most of us, probably all of us, including myself, are swayed by this. We have a certain allegiance to certain brands and everything like that. But when I say fanboys, it's like it's going overboard. It's the ones that get angry and piss and ignore the issues with it and just constantly bash other ones. I don't know if it's young viewers, young readers, or just pure ignorant people. Like, I don't know, and I really don't care. I'm not here to say young people don't know anything. They shouldn't. I wouldn't expect them to know anything because they're young and they're just learning about these things. But fanboyism is absolutely pure intellectual sludge. It's just, it hurts me. It makes me feel dumb reading it. If you can't recognize issues with the brands that you buy, with corporations, with objects, these are objects. This isn't your lover, your mother, your best friend. It is a corporation, and the only thing that they care about is money, is taking your money. They don't care if you die the next day, if you get electrocuted, if you're depressed, if you're happy. They don't give a shit about your life. So why do you defend them like they're your lover, your long-lost lover? This is primarily why, I guess, to a certain degree. The only thing that I can understand is that you put a certain amount of money into something. You bought an Xbox One. You spent $500 on it. People are complaining, and this is why I'm going to bring this up. People are complaining, or bashing it rather, from the other side, seemingly, that it can't do 1080p, that this game is 1080p on the PlayStation 4, but it's only 720. Jesus, what a waste of money. Then you get all defensive, you're like, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Graphics are not the thing that only matters. And I'm tweeting about this as well, and I see people's responses. The same response, you're like, oh, you're telling me that graphics are the only thing that defines a next-gen game? No. I'm not telling you that 1080p is the definitive factor of a next-generation game. What I'm saying is that 1080p is the absolute baseline of current video games of what a machine should be capable of. And I'm not saying that the Xbox One isn't capable of 1080p. It sure is. Forza and a few other games, a small number of other games, mind you, are capable of 1080p, which Microsoft was quick to rebut all these, allegations. But having only a couple or a few things that were able to properly manipulate that ESRAM to squeeze out 1080p, and likely I think around 60 frames per second, I don't really know, is not an excuse why most of the major titles, including a game that is exclusive to Microsoft, Titanfall, they're looking to try and squeeze, and this is what they're saying, they're trying to push it to 900p. It's unacceptable in the next generation. You're spending $500. If graphics don't matter and all of that doesn't matter, why even put an Xbox One out? Stick with the Xbox 360, that's it. There shouldn't be this struggle for developers to create a game in 1080p when it should be the baseline. That's it. Now, is it the defining factor of all games? No, not all games need 1080p. It's not required for it, but it should be there. It should be accessible to developers and easily accessible. 1080p is not new technology. It's been out on TVs. Almost anyone and everyone can get a cheap HD 1080p TV. That's it. It's a baseline. We're on the verge of Ultra HD right now. What is it, 4,000 pixels or something like that? I don't know, whatever. We're going to the Retina displays and stuff like that, which really, if you think about it, that's the absolute cap. When we're talking about graphics, going on in the future, talking about anything beyond Retina display is asinine. If anyone creates something beyond Retina, it's a waste of money, and that would be stupid. So we have this definitive, because your eyes wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Your eyes can't see beyond that, beyond Retina display. So it would be a waste. So we have this ceiling. We know that once the technology gets to the point when developers get to the point of Retina graphics, that's it. There's no more arguments on there. It'll become baseline. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that argument will be done. And we'll find something else, that we like to argue about. The stupidity never stops. The ignorance never stops. Fanboys never stop. There'll be some other aspect that we argue about. The graphics will become, Retina display, that's it. We've peaked it, it's done. What are we gonna argue about once we're up there? But we're not there yet. And 1080p should be a baseline capability. Games like Minecraft, hugely popular. Do they need 1080p? Oh, God, no. Of course not. You don't care when you're playing Minecraft if it's super defined. But games like Titanfall, like Call of Duty, like Battlefield, they require a sense of immersion, a sense of at least a respectable level of realism to make you feel immersed in that game. That's part of it. You know, it's not like a Mario world where things are colorful and it's cartoony, and a lot of times it's your imagination that kicks in. It's like, you know, it's an artistic impression. It doesn't need to have 1080p on that. You know, it's unnecessary. Nintendo has actually that benefit where they don't need to do that. You know, well, I'm not going to get into the Wii U because I think that's actually a blunder of theirs, but whatever. Let's not get into that. Like, what? You just don't do? I love that guy. I don't want to get into it. I don't really care. But 1080p, let's face it here, if you cannot accept the fact that in next-gen systems, in $500 Xbox One and a $400 PlayStation 4, the baseline of graphic capabilities easily achieved by both systems should be 1080p, then we can't have a conversation because you're like too far gone up some corporation's ass and you just don't know which way is up because that's ridiculous. Part of a next-gen gaming, what defines a next-gen game, or at least what, you know, again, for the systems it's easy. It's like, you know what, it should be open. They should be able to increase the number of assets. That's a key thing as well. If you're not going to have 1080p, you should have 60 frames per second. That should be another standard thing. 1080p, 60 frames per second capability. Not every game needs it. Again, 60 frames per second is nice almost in any game, really. I mean, that's a nice thing to have. It's smoothness, you know what I mean? It just makes it feel and react a lot better. Assets, the number of assets in a game. For those of you that don't know, and I'm going to be open about it, it's the number of objects in a game. So, for instance, let's take Call of Duty for instance. If it's not going to be 1080p and it's 720, it can still look incredibly impressive on the Xbox One if the number of assets is increased and noticeably bigger than what's on the 360. And it should be capable of doing that. The problem is that ESRAM, which is the key component here, which is what is causing the problem with a lot of these developers, bottlenecks everything. They go through it. They don't know how to properly utilize it. Struggling to utilize something in the next gen is unacceptable. They're like, oh, well, they'll learn to use it. You know, just like a lot of developers learned to use that cell processor in the PlayStation 3. It was a pain in the ass. It was a stupid move by Sony, really. It was just, you know, it's using supercomputers for Pete's sake. It was beyond what was required at that time. It was a dumb mistake by Sony. But now Microsoft is doing the same stupid thing with this ESRAM. They're making it so that these developers are struggling to try and they're having to drop stuff. They're having to, okay, you know what, if we have 1080p, we got to drop the assets. There shouldn't be a compromise. The number of assets should be increased. There should be a noticeable difference, and there is from Xbox One to Xbox 360. Even if you're seeing it at 720, if both are 720, the number of assets and objects and leaves and the way the light's hitting them and the way they're falling, the number of things happening on the screen for the same type of game will look that much more visually impressive on the Xbox One at the same, you know, graphics. And some people get confused and they think that that's really what it is when it isn't. And it's all these other things in lighting and dynamics and particle physics. But it's still an issue on the Xbox One. That ESRAM is still causing issues. It's not just the graphics that are getting affected. It's the whole package. That is the problem. It's a horrendous. For $500, is it really next gen? No, it's like on the cusp of it, but it's not fully. Whereas everything that you're reading, and I know some of you guys are having this hard to swallow, and I really don't give a shit, is that the PlayStation 4 architecturally, from a hardware standpoint, is absolutely superior. It's superior, we're not talking about like leaps and bounds beyond it, it's like light speed, but it is easily able to do 1080p, easily able to do 60 frames per second, all the assets, and room to spare. You know what I mean? Like, it has all that. It's beating everyone. They're like, oh, and look, it's beating Xbox in sales. I personally attribute that to a simple price drop. For like, you know, $400 and some bad, you know, decisions about the DRM, the digital rights management, for those you don't know, you know, use games and all that sort of stuff that people really didn't like and reacted quite harshly during the Microsoft reveal. Kind of gave Sony the ability, because we look back now and we see so many articles, whether they're true or not, but the PlayStation Eye, you know, the new PlayStation Eye, Sony's response to the Kinect, was supposed to be part of every console going out, just like the Kinect is going out with every single Xbox One. For whatever reason, these gimmicky peripherals, the companies love them. I personally think they're garbage. You know, maybe in the future they're good. Maybe they're fun for certain games, but overall, not at this point here. I think they're very, very gimmicky. But Sony was like, whoa, look at the reaction and what's happening here. If we get rid of this thing, because it's not really necessary, they had the same mindset as Microsoft. They wanted it and everything, but they're like, let's see if we can undercut them. Boom, get rid of it, $100 cheaper. Whoa, $100 cheaper. And let's face it, people are cheap. That's the bottom line. You cut $100 off the price of a system that practically will play the exact same games, and looked on paper at that time, the hardware looked very, very similar. You're like, well, it's $100 cheaper. It's going to be playing all the major games as well. Maybe not Halo. If you're a diehard Halo, of course, you're not even going to think about the PlayStation. If you're diehard Uncharted or something, or The Last of Us, and you're hoping that it's coming on the PlayStation 4, which Uncharted 4 does look like it's coming out, I've seen recent articles, then it's, that's why you're buying it. But this whole argument, about graphics not, mattering at all, everyone discounting it, is absolutely a stupid move by butthurt people trying to look for ways to discount the fact that it is a flop in terms of technology. It shouldn't be there. Microsoft is a software company. It's a hugely successful. And personally, I think they're smarter in how they approach, or at least they were smarter, especially for the 360 generation. They got Activision to side with them. Early DLCs for Call of Duty, one of the most popular games. They got Titanfall exclusivity. They got Plants vs. Zombie, Garden Warfare coming out on it. I think, people are saying, it's the PlayStation's all about, Sony's really got the gamers in mind, but for now, I'm not really even interested in playing anything on my PlayStation 4. I'm looking forward to my Xbox One that I'm going to be buying tomorrow so that I can play Titanfall, so that I can play Plants vs. Zombies. Am I worried that it's not going to be in 1080p? No. I mean, again, I'm giving you all these arguments, and some of you are going to probably get mad, but I don't give a shit. I don't care that it's 1080p. I'm not going to go, well, this looks horrible. I have nothing to compare it against. I don't know. I'm just saying from a practical standpoint that these issues should be baseline. That the Xbox One shouldn't struggle for developers to try and get 1080p. 1080p, 60 frames per second, increased assets, particle physics, all of this stuff there should be a baseline. There shouldn't be any struggle. There shouldn't be, we'll have to give up this. Because to me, that's not really next gen, Anyway, that's it. Those are my thoughts on it. What is it, 12 minutes? I ramble on a lot, but I've got to get this stuff off, and I got to be honest with you. So I'm coming from all sorts of different angles. I like my PlayStation more, and I know oddly enough, and I would say that I normally like the controller more too, but I really don't like the PlayStation 4 controller. I prefer the PlayStation 3, which means that if I get on the Xbox One, I'm likely going to get a new Cronus adapter. I've seen a new one or whatever where you can actually use the PlayStation 3 controller on the Xbox One. It's just the most comfortable for myself. I know a lot of you like that. Some of you, actually, if you're Xbox and you're going to PlayStation, you probably like the PlayStation 4 controller way more than the PlayStation 3. The sticks are, I think they feel wider, but they're smaller. The controller definitely is bigger. So for those of you who have I have really big hands, like you're a gorilla or something. I don't know, but people oh, I got this controller here. You're Titans yourself or something. I don't get it. I'm like all these arguments for it, but whatever. I don't grab the Xbox 360, I'm like, oh, my tiny hands, this thing is huge, I can't use it. I'm like, I don't notice the difference, so I don't get that argument. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. I'm looking forward for the games right now on the Xbox One. I don't have anything really that's making me go, man, I can't wait for this game on the PlayStation 4. Uncharted 4 for me will be that game. I'll probably continue to play games like Call of Duty or any other first-person shooters on my PlayStation 4. I'm just more comfortable with the system, and even though I'm not a big fan of that PlayStation 4 controller, I do prefer it still over the Xbox One controller and Xbox 360. So for me, it's a natural inclination. It's not because I'm like, I love Sony and I spit on you, Microsoft. It's the small things, it's the little things, Anyway, that's it. Share your thoughts. If you got anything else you'd like me to talk about, by all means, drop by me. Just come on by. I'll have a steak dinner for you. stop by on Twitter. That link is in the description below. Give me topics, share your opinions and everything like that. And remember, be as respectable as possible. Some of you may have already found out if I've already pushed that button and got y'all excited, and one of you were like, yeah, you don't know anything. Your comment probably didn't make it because I filter the crap out of them. Be respectable. You know, if someone says something that you don't like, respond to it and debate with them and everything like that, but just don't be a jackass about it, because I'd hate to block you. No, that's not true. I'll just block you. It's pretty simple. Anyway, that's it. Don't be a sheep.